Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2009-2010 school year. I'm your principal, Mrs. K, and I'm here this evening just to kind of bring you up to speed on some things that we're going to be doing this year, in addition to the programs that we've done over the course of the last few years. Like I said, welcome back. I hope everybody had a great summer. I hope everybody rested and reflected and are ready for the new school year. We certainly know that your kids are, just by the energy level they're bringing into our building already. So a few things I want to cover. First of all, let me introduce you to our theme this year. Our theme this year is Our High Expectations Work Magic. And we are excited to use that theme throughout the year with your kids in different programs. The Night They're Rich program will be built around that, etc. So when you hear your kids coming home talking about magic, that's where it's coming from. And speaking of magic, I've had several of my colleagues mention perhaps there was magic behind our AYP status for this year. Jokingly, of course, but as you've read in your local papers, we are one of two middle schools that did meet adequate yearly progress last year based on the SOL test results from your students. We appreciate all their hard work, and I have congratulated our staff here for their hard work. I am convinced that it is the deliberate thought processes that we put behind all of our programming that comes together, and we have the results of the success you've seen. So congratulations to you all too for what you do to support your children at home on that front. A couple of program issues to bring up for you. First of all, for those of you who are returning parents, you're familiar with our COVE program, which has been our advisory program for the last 3 years. This year, we are not going to do the COVE program in its same format from the last few years. We are still focusing on the notion of adult advocates in the building for each student and direct connections, but we're going to be doing that in a little bit of a different way. Our teams are going to be paying close attention to students who last year indicated that they don't feel as strongly connected to the school as they'd like. And we're also going to be, as a group of staff, each of us taking about 10 or 15 kids that we're just going to make sure we pay close attention to throughout the course of the year, again, to be an adult advocate here for them at school. Our intention is always to make sure that every child feels well connected to at least one adult in the building, and I'm convinced that we'll continue to do that. Another update is on our Big 3 program. As you all know, that's our positive behavior support program that we implemented last year. Big 3 stands for respecting ourselves, respecting each other, and respecting property. You'll see those posters all over our building when you visit throughout the year. And in fact, our students will be participating in a poster contest to make new posters for this year, hopefully reflecting our theme of expectations and magic. In the Big 3 program, we've done a couple of different things. One that I want to bring to your attention. Your child might come home talking about the opportunity room. Last year, what we realized that there are times when sometimes a teacher has a student leave the classroom for a break. That might be for a lot of different reasons. The goal is always to get the child back in the classroom as quickly as possible. But instead of having a child sit in a hallway or go to a house office, we're going to have them come to the opportunity room this year, where they'll be able to reflect on their decision making and work with one of our staff members to decide how to make better decisions in the future so that they're not sent out of class. Fortunately, at Eagle Ridge, our discipline problems are very minor, and that's because of all the hard work that we all do together, including you, our parents. But we did want to make sure we had a program in place for those instances where it is appropriate and that it would benefit students. So if you hear about the opportunity room, that's what they're talking about, and feel free to contact your dean to get more information if you'd like it. Of course, I'm always going to put in my annual plug for the PTO. You've hopefully heard from one of them on this tape this evening. And I do want to just say to you that the parent part of the PT organization is critical. So I'm going to echo that representative's words by just saying to you, please join the PTO and please volunteer. I say to you all every year that every time you step in our building, you send a message to your child that what we do here is important. And that continues to be true right now. The way to be connected to your child, the way to know what's going on in his or her life, is to be at school volunteering. So please make sure that you respond to all the emails and the sign-up sheets for the PTO, and we look forward to seeing you here as a volunteer and as a parent. One other new shift that I'd like to mention to you is a little bit of a change in our iPod policy. You all already know that our policy about electronic devices is that they are off and in the locker during the school day. We continue to have that rule. However, we are going to be experimenting a little bit with iPod use this year in 2 areas. In 8th grade SOAR, which is the 8th grade resource for 90 minutes, and in the cafeteria. In both of those areas, we do have large number of students engaged in different activities. In SOAR, they're engaged in independent study time. In the cafeteria, of course, it's a social time with lunch. We'd like to give it a try and see how iPod use in those 2 areas would impact. In SOAR, for example, we know that a lot of kids these days are very much more attentive to their schoolwork when they have something else in the background like music, which is why we're going to try the independent use of iPods in SOAR. And in the cafeteria, frankly, there's a lot of kids in there and there's certainly a lot of noise, and we certainly encourage kids to be social because it's kind of the one downtime during the day for them. But we also want to see if using iPods in there actually helps with the noise because the kids have something else kind of to divert their attention. We don't know how it's going to go, but we're willing to at least take the risk and try it out. What we're going to tell your students this week and next week is that this is a trial basis. We will be reevaluating at the end of September to determine whether or not the iPods helped in the areas we wanted or if they caused more problems than they solved. A couple of things about that though. Your kids already bring their electronic devices to school and the same rules apply. And by that I mean, unless they're in an area that's designated, they're still supposed to be off and out of sight. And if they have them out in an area where they're not supposed to have them, the teacher will take them, give it to the dean. Dean gives the child a warning, etc. The biggest concern we have with electronic devices every year is loss of the devices. Students are told over and over again they should always be in a locked area like their locker. And that they have to be careful with them. If your child loses their iPod, unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do about it. We certainly don't have the resources as an administrative team to investigate loss of items. Your child will be directed that if they lose an electronic device, just as it's been every year in the past, they can check in the lost and found. But outside of that, there's just not much we can do to support that. So that's a decision for you all to make with respect to whether or not you want those expensive devices coming to school. If your child does bring it and can be used in the areas I've indicated, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. He or she certainly won't be at any loss. So I don't want your child coming home saying now they have to bring their iPod to school because that's not accurate. So if you have questions about that, as always, again, call me, call your dean. And finally, of course, as you all know already, I'm signing off, so to speak, this year from Eagle Ridge. I kind of wrote my farewell note in the newsletter for September that's coming out to you, or by the time you see this, you may have already read it. And I'll just say to you via this video that it truly has been my privilege to work with you and your students and the families and the staff here at Eagle Ridge, and I wish you all the best as you proceed. I am, however, an email away. Don't ever hesitate to contact me and use me as a resource as necessary. But again, it's been my privilege, and I wish you all the best. With that, have a great school year, and we look forward to seeing you soon.